Top 10 most mysterious and dangerous primitive tribes in the world. Today, even as human civilization soars to new heights, there still exist tribes on Earth that dance with death itself. On North Sentinel Island, the Sentinelese defend their shores with poisoned arrows, striking down anyone who dares to land. Deep in the Mexican jungle, a cannibalistic group suspends human skulls in the treetops, offering them to the spirits for a bountiful harvest. In Borneo, the headhunters trade enemy skulls for firearms, sealing their reputation with blood and terror. These tribes have built an iron curtain between themselves and the modern world, wielding deadly weapons to protect beliefs that have endured for millennia. Hello, I'm V. Join us as we journey to the 10 most mysterious and dangerous tribes on the planet. Number 10. The blind people of Mexico's caves. Hidden in the dense forests of Mexico's Sierra Madre lives a secretive tribe known locally as the blind people. Yet their blindness isn't a curse of birth. A parasitic worm, carried by black flies, burrows into the eyes of infants and destroys the visual nerves by 3 months of age. Over countless generations in total darkness, they have honed hearing and touch to supernatural levels, navigating by echo and scent alone. Any stray flashlight beam or unfamiliar noise can trigger panic, and outsiders often find themselves on the receiving end of a swift, collective attack. Organized in a primitive communal system, they share every morsel of food and resource equally. Fewer than 300 remain, steadfast in their refusal to abandon the cave their ancestors crawled into, despite the lurking parasite. Number 9. The Pygmies of the Congo Rainforest. In the heart of Central Africa's tropical rainforest dwell the so-called Pygmies, or children of the forest, whose adults stand barely waist-high to a stranger. For centuries, their homelands have been ravaged by armed militants who coerce them into illegal logging and mining, or hunt them as prey, believing that consuming their flesh grants supernatural strength. This brutal persecution has decimated their numbers and hardened their hearts against the outside world. Any outsider who strays too close risks invoking a fierce, desperate defense from these forest guardians. Number 8. The Nennets of the Siberian Tundra. High above the Arctic Circle, on the wind-swept Siberian tundra, roam the Nennets, a nomadic people of roughly 44,000 souls who thrive for millennia by herding reindeer. Each year, they embark on epic migrations of over 1,000 kilometers, trailing their herds through temperatures that plunge well below minus 50 degrees Celsius. The reindeer are more than mere livestock. Their meat and blood sustain the Nennets through the long winter. Their hides become tents and furs to stave off the cold, and even their bones are carved into tools, forged in a closed circle of life that depends entirely on the herd. Living on the knife edge of survival has sharpened the Nennets' senses and their defenses. They read the tundra like a book, listening for echoes off distant ice ridges and watching shifting winds to detect intruders long before they come into sight. Along their migration paths, they set clever traps among ice fissures and snow hollows, turning the very landscape into a safeguard. In 2014, when oil companies drove seismic vehicles across the Yamal Peninsula in search of gas, nearly 70% of Russia's reserves lie beneath the frozen ground. Nennets herders answer with their reindeer-pulled sledges, blocking access roads and forcing exploration crews to halt operations. These confrontations arise from a bitter conflict. Pipelines and wellheads carved through ancient caribou tracks, fracturing migratory routes and threatening the herds that are the Nennets' lifeblood. Number 7. The Hima of Namibia's Kunene River. Deep in northern Namibia, along the banks of Kunene River, live the Hima, a tribe so forged by hardship that few reach their 20th birthday. A genetic quirk means many boys die before 15, leaving some communities with 10 women for every man. To sustain their lineage, the Hima practice polygyny. A man may take 3 to 5 wives, and courtship is refreshingly open. Unmarried women may take lovers, and all children remain under the care of their mother's family. Himba women are instantly recognizable by their skin and hair, eternally coated in a red clay mixture. This paste, a blend of ochre, goat fat, and aromatic resin, shields them from the relentless sun and biting insects, substitutes for water in a land where every drop is sacred, and signals status. Unwed girls braid their locks forward to hide their faces, while married women bind theirs into crowns. Men roam the arid plains with goats and cattle, while women manage hearth and home, crafting exquisite wooden carvings and beaded jewelry to trade with the occasional traveler. Yet even this hardy tribe faces modern pressures. Drought shrinks grazing lands, water points vanish, and young Himba, drawn by city lights, risk losing the ancient customs that make their people unique. Today, only about 20,000 Himba remain, bounded by tradition even as the world encroaches. Number 6. The Huly Wigmen of Papua New Guinea. In the mist-clad highlands of central Papua New Guinea, the Huly Wigmen guard their ancestral lands with fierce pride and dazzling ceremony. Unknown to the world until the mid-20th century, the Huly have preserved Stone Age customs. They hunt with wooden spears and sharpened stone axes, and their elders passed down history through song, dance, and oral law. At the heart of Huly culture is the art of the wig. Men fashion towering headdresses from their own long hair, interwoven with vibrant bird feathers and wild boar tusks, secured by plant fibers. When clans prepare for battle, they don these elaborate wigs, paint their faces in bold patterns, and unleash earth-shaking war dances and battle cries to cow their rivals before swords or spears are even drawn. Contact with missionaries and colonial officers in the 1970s sparked fierce resistance. The Huly drove off outsiders with poisoned arrows, keen to safeguard their realm. In recent years, Papua New Guinea's government has carved out cultural reserves to ease tensions, yet the younger generation, tempted by schools, radios, and churches, now stands at crossroads. The Huly's ancient rituals, once echoing across the valleys like thunder, risk fading into legend as the modern world beckons. Number 5. The Anomy of the Amazon Rainforest. Deep within the tangled green labyrinth of the Amazon, straddling the border between Brazil and Venezuela, live the Anomy, roughly 35,000 souls who dwell in circular thatch villages and live by a semi-nomadic cycle of hunting, gathering, and swidden farming. Renowned for their shamanic traditions, the Anomy believe every living thing carries a spirit. Shamans ingest hallucinogenic plants to commune with these spirits, interpreting visions that guide the tribe. They view death not as a passage, but as an assault by malevolent entities. To save the departed soul, they cremate the body and mix the ashes with plantain, which relatives consume in a sacred rite. Outsiders, hearing of this ritual ingestion of ashes, have often mistaken it for gruesome human sacrifice. Defensive and fiercely protective of their homeland, the Anomy have clashed violently with intruders throughout history. Beginning in the 1970s, gold prospectors invaded their territory, polluting rivers with mercury and unleashing waves of disease that wiped out nearly 20% of the population. In 1993, the brutal massacre at Haksamu claimed 16 Anomy lives. The tribe retaliated with poisoned arrows, killing several miners in turn. Even today, the throb of chainsaws and the whine of helicopters on the forest's edge trigger memories of bloodshed, ensuring the Anomy remain ever wary of the outside world. Number 4. The Penant of Borneo's Rainforest. In the emerald depths of Borneo's tropical rainforests, the Penant people pursue a life of hunting and gathering with legendary stealth. They harvest the milky sap of the tajam tree to concoct a potent toxin. They slash the bark, let the liquid drip onto bamboo or iron dart tips, then roast them until the poison hardens. A single dart can stop a wild boar's heart in under 2 minutes, and warriors can even fell bats high in the canopy from 40 meters below. Beyond their poisoned darts, the Penant have mastered rainforest survival. They fashion starchy cakes from the sago palm, keep embers alive in moss-lined smoke boxes, and leave coated twig markers to guide fellow hunters to game or safe paths. Yet vast swathes of their jungle home have fallen to loggers, splitting their territory and eroding the knowledge passed down through generations. Once numbering the thousands, only around 1,000 Penants still cling to their ancestral ways, as vital skills, poison-making, rattan weaving, slip quietly into oblivion. Number 3. The Headhunters of Borneo and beyond. Across Borneo and the surrounding isles, several tribes, most famously the Dayak and their Iban cousins, built their reputations on the grisly art of headhunting. For a warrior, bringing home an enemy's skull was the ultimate proof of valor, hung on the longhouse exterior, where each trophy elevated a man's status and wooing power. The skull served many purposes. Buried beneath house foundations to ward off evil, presented before planting rice, to beseech a bountiful harvest, and even traded as currency. 19th century European colonists once bartered muskets for fresh heads in a grim, one gun for one skull economy. These headhunter societies honed jungle ambush tactics to perfection. Fighters would advance silently along narrow valleys or river crossings, camouflaged against the foliage, low to ground to erase tracks. Iban warriors armed their blowpipes with plant-based toxins, then struck silently from afar, sometimes snaring a pig, other times a human target. During World War II, these same techniques re-emerged as indigenous bands ambushed Japanese patrols, cutting off heads in the ancient fashion. Though headhunting has long since ceased, the legends of those forest shadows linger, reminding us of a time when raw courage and fierce skill ruled the undergrowth. Number 2. The Mexican Cannibals of the Jungle. Deep in the rugged mountains of Durango in northern Mexico, two tribes, the ancient Zixximes and their cousins the Acaxes, wove cannibalism into the very rhythms of their agricultural calendar. After each corn harvest, warriors would descend on lone laborers from neighboring villages, slaying them with brutal precision. With razor-sharp obsidian blades, they dismembered the bodies at the joints, preserving the skeleton intact. The flesh was stewed together with fresh corn and beans in a sacred communal feast, believed to infuse the corn spirits with the fallen man's strength. The bones were carefully cleaned and hung from rooftops or high branches for months, serving as spectral guardians to ensure the next planting season's bounty. In 1984, archaeologists exploring the Cueva del Maguey at 2,600 meters altitude discovered that over 80% of the animal and human bones bore telltale signs of cooking and scraping, eerily confirming 16th century missionary accounts of tribes devouring flesh to harness the soul's power. Number 1. The Sentinelese of North Sentinel Island. Off the coast of India's Andaman archipelago lies North Sentinel Island, a place frozen in deep prehistory. Its inhabitants, the Sentinelese, are descendants of early Homo sapiens cut off from the mainland some 60,000 years ago by rising sea levels. Untouched by contact, they live in Stone Age simplicity, hunting with bows and arrows, fishing from crude rafts, and carving tools from stone and driftwood. Their language is utterly untranslatable, their customs a riddle. History taught them a brutal lesson in outsider peril. When a British merchant ship ran aground in 1867, their first contact ended in bloodshed. In 1880, colonial authorities kidnapped 6 islanders, unleashing diseases that decimated the tribe. In 2006, 2 fishermen who drifted ashore were killed by poisoned arrows. India's government, respecting their right to remain undisturbed, enforces a strict 3 nautical mile exclusion zone, patrolled by the Navy around the clock. The Sentinelese possess an uncanny mastery of their island. When the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami struck, they instinctively fled to higher ground days before the wave hit. But their immune systems remain as isolated as their culture. Exposure to common viruses could spell their ruin. Today, only some 50 to 400 Sentinelese survive, cocooned behind coral reefs and dense forests, beyond the reach of modern law and irrevocably alone. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.